the United States and its allies. The resolution received the lowest level of support for a Ukraine-related motion since the conflict began. 94 countries supported the initiative to, quote, hold Moscow accountable for violating international law, while 14 nations, including China, voted against the resolution, claiming it lacks sufficient legal basis. 73 states, among them India and Brazil, chose to abstain. We spoke to Dmitry Polyansky, Russia's deputy ambassador to the UN, who said the resolution lacked a legal basis.
The nature of this initiative, it's not about Ukraine. It is being shaped as a resolution on Ukrainian subject. But everybody understands that this is about stealing Russian assets, about some illegal move which is being contemplated in the heads of some Western politicians, and it's very difficult to conceal this truth. That's why all the countries that were considering this draft, they were absolutely mindful of these double layers of this resolution.
While some UN member states consider the move illegal, others recall Western interventions and colonial exploitation, which never yielded reparations and justice. RT's Caleb Maupin explains.
This is certainly significant because since the Ukraine conflict escalated, there has certainly been an effectiveness on the part of the United States in mobilizing the world to condemn Russia. Not today. As the vote took place, it became very clear that a number of countries just were not comfortable with this resolution. There were 16 countries that signed a statement pointing out that there are a number of countries around the world that have suffered illegal invasions, sanctions, attacks, slavery, colonialism, and that those countries are certainly entitled to reparations. You can talk about Iraq, you can talk about Vietnam, Korea, other countries, and those countries have not yet received any reparations for the crimes committed against them by the United States or its Western allies. However, the reparations should be carried out on a sound legal process, not simply through these resolutions that are just presented randomly to the General Assembly. Now, the Russian ambassador to the UN, Nebenzia, he took to the podium and he pointed out that a number of countries simply don't want to go along with what appears to be an attempt to justify the outright theft of Russian assets around the world. He also pointed out that the entire basis through which this is being carried out doesn't fit with UN procedures. Decisions like this should be made by the UN Security Council, not the General Assembly body where the United States took this resolution. Here is some more of what the Russian ambassador had to say about today's resolution.
The inferiority of this initiative is obvious. From a legal point of view, the provisions of the draft do not stand up to any criticism, are legally null and void. It's an attempt to legalize what can't be legalized from the point of view of current international law. This is a classic example of the concept of rules-based order, when a group of states does not act on the basis of international law, but seeks to sanctify lawlessness, using the authority of the General Assembly and positioning it as a judicial body, which by definition it is not.
Now, the Russian ambassador also pointed out that one of the key deceptions from those supporting the resolution was this claim that somehow the money that was being used would go to help the Ukrainian people, when in reality, the money was going to be used to prolong this conflict, to supply Ukraine with more weapons, to carry out more military actions, and in prolong the conflict, lead to more killing, lead to more death. It was a moment where it became clear that the support the United States has had for its efforts to isolate Russia, for its theft of Russian assets and its unilateral sanctions on Russia, its attempts to push Russia off of the international economy, that support may be fading as the economic consequences of this effort from the United States and this prolonging of a conflict, as the economic consequences become more and more apparent, many countries around the world are starting to ask questions and not have the enthusiasm they may have had once before.
Dmitry Polyansky, Russia's deputy ambassador to the UN, again believes Western attempts to isolate Russia are seeing less support among UN member states.
What happened today in the UN might be a very serious warning for Western countries and their allies that their drive, their Russophobic drive, is meeting less and less support in the United Nations. They might be disappointed and discouraged by the results of today's voting. Not only the voting, it's necessary to point out that there was also a very unfavorable for them debate where developing countries were pronouncing their grievances against Western countries, that they were reproaching to them lack of constructive approach in other cases which could involve reparations and remedy for their actions. So they were saying quite directly that this is a clear example of double standards, and that the Western countries want to prioritize Ukrainian crisis and to forget about all other crisis situations in the world. So there was a lot of very, very passionate speeches that were absolutely not a music to Western ears today in the General Assembly Hall.